Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to another video on Young Race Predictor, where today we are going to be doing the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix predictions round 4 in Imola in 2022. The season has already got off to a very good start. Ferrari starting off with a banger in the first 3 races. Charles Leclerc leading the championship with already 74 points to his name. And then Carlos Sainz also performing quite well with the Ferrari in the 3rd race alone. It was a bit of a mess up, but he is kind of performing good for Ferrari as well. So both the Ferrari players are doing quite well. The Mercedes actually have we expected them to be slow, but they are actually doing quite well. So hats off to Mercedes and even the drivers, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, because they are currently sitting second in the drivers and even in the constructors championship. So beautiful job from the Mercedes, who managed to pull this off. In the first race, Verstappen and Perez had retired the race. It wasn't a mistake with them or with the car, it was just the battery issue. So, and in the second race, Perez actually started from pole position. So we do know Red Bull has space to fight the Ferrari. Perez started on pole, and 5 laps before the end of the race, Max Verstappen had cleared off Leclerc with an amazing battle in the last 10 laps, and he went on to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Beautiful job from the world champion. And in Australia, Verstappen faced another issue, another engine problem, and therefore he went and retired the race. And Perez went on to finish in second. So, Red Bull are actually doing quite well. The only problem is they need to come up with a more better car that can utilize or hold more of the battery. I mean, it's the main reason why they haven't been performing these days. They can perform even better and fight for Ferrari even if they need to win the world championship. They are doing a good job. So are Mercedes, but Ferrari have got a beautiful banger and a beautiful start to the season. So this being round 4 in Imola, we are going to have a surprise race, and even we are going to be having a sprint race held this year. According to the Formula 1 organization, they have said that they will have a sprint race held in Imola, in Austria, and even in Interlagos this season. So this being round 4, already starting off with the sprint race, it's going to be amazing indeed. So let's dive into the qualifying predictions, but before that, let me just give a small view on how the last race was when F1 had hosted a Grand Prix in Imola, which was last year, and it turned out quite well indeed. In lap 1, Hamilton on pole position, Sergio Perez alongside him on the front row for the first time in his career, Max Verstappen in P3 ahead of Charles Leclerc in P4. The lights were out and away they went, and it was already a three-way battle before they went into the Tamburello chicane. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton battling wheel to wheel, and both of them touching each other. Hamilton going over the rumble strips into the Tamburello chicane and even over the curb and losing a little bit of bodywork. Verstappen went on and led the first lap of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Later on in the race, after his pit stop to 1 or 2 laps later, Hamilton made a mistake and he went to the wall and broke his front wing. So he managed to reverse and put the car back on track, but he needed a miracle. Otherwise, it would be a huge job for Lewis Hamilton to come back and finish on the podium if there weren't any safety car or any kind of issue. So he needed a miracle, and that miracle came in one of the most unfortunate incidents anybody could think in the 2021 season, which was Hamilton's teammate Valtteri Bottas and George Russell both colliding and retiring the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Bottas starting on pole position in 2020 and Russell doing an amazing qualifying performance in both 2020 and 2021 in Imola, but both their races being shattered was not quite good as that either. Both of them colliding onto each other, and both went and crashed into the wall, and that brought the first red flag of the season in race terms. So this almost looked like a safe way for Lewis Hamilton, so that they could repair his car during the red flag, and he could manage to continue the race from P9, because that was where he had dropped before the red flag had been pulled out. So he did give a comeback. He finished in P2. Max Verstappen later on won the race, and Lando Norris already giving an amazing start for McLaren with the second race already of the season. He grabbed the podium. So this was the result. Now let's move on to my predictions for the race in 24th April, or maybe even 23rd or 25th for you guys, held in Imola. So we, as usual, will be going from last all the way up to first. So the qualifying will have those eliminated in Q1 alongside in the 8th row. Alongside 16th place, I meant Nicholas Latifi last, Lance Stroll in 19th, Sebastian Vettel, Alexander Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, and Zhou Guanyu making it into Q2. Yes, so what I felt about this is that Nicholas Latifi actually has been okay this season. I mean, but in qualifying terms, he has always been in the last row. So has Lance Stroll. They do have a chance of going through unless there was a crash or unless they managed to put in an amazing lap around Imola, because this is the third year already, and this is Latifi's third year in Imola. So is Lance Stroll's third year. Sebastian Vettel has practiced here in Imola as well. Albon played in 2020 as well. Yeah, so this may be his second year Albon, and it was an amazing performance in Australia by Alexander Albon, starting in 16th, but due to disqualification starting from last, he made his way all the way up into 7th. But due to a 3-place grid penalty, he had no other choice but come into the pits. He came to the pits in the final lap and battled Lance Stroll, and even the guy in P11, I don't know who that was, and Alexander Albon finished in a magnificent and a perfect P10 to secure his first point and Williams' first point of this season. Yuki Tsunoda also could perform, but last year being his first year, his rookie season, and already in Imola not going off quite well, retired in qualifying with a crash in the chicane. So Yuki Tsunoda may be able to go higher than 20th, but not the higher than what I expect. He actually has a chance of going through, but his minimum position would be P16. That's why I've put it in P16, just missing out of Q2. Alexander Albon P17. Sebastian Vettel actually doing quite well. His first race itself being in Australia, he finished only P18 and then went on, but due to an engine issue and small crash, he had to retire the race. So Sebastian Vettel maybe P18, Lance Stroll P19, Nicholas Latifi P20, Joe Guan Yu just going into Q2 in P15, P11, P12, 13 and 14. We have Daniel Ricciardo just missing out. He could actually get past Fernando Alonso or maybe even Esteban Ocon and replace them maybe into the Q3 spots, but the minimum position for Ricciardo will be P11. Kevin Magnussen will be P12. The Haas actually performed quite well in the first two races of Kevin Magnussen. Schumacher also doing quite well with her fast and reliable car. Haas have actually got a really good improvement this season, and Schumacher does have a chance of maybe going through or just missing out of Q3. Valtteri Bottas for Alfa Romeo in P30. He was like Kevin Magnussen. He actually performed quite well this season as well, but just like how Magnussen had performed in Australia, he finished in P12. So in Imola, he may perform quite well, but I think P13 may be his minimum position that he will get, maybe P13 for Valtteri Bottas. Now moving into the top 10 from 5 all the way down to 10, we have Lando Norris in the third row ahead of his Mercedes friend George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, the other Brit, in P7 ahead of Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso in P9 and Pierre Gasly in P10. So just like how I said, there may be a battle on the timings between Ocon, Alonso, Gasly, Ricciardo, Magnussen, and maybe even Valtteri Bottas. Schumacher may be involved in the battle, but I think from Ocon all the way down to Bottas, it will be a battle for who will make it into Q3 mostly. So, but I didn't know, so in my predictions I put Ocon P8, Alonso ahead of Gasly in the fifth row. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton both performing quite well, but in the qualifying sessions alone, average about their highest has been P5 or P6, or yeah, P5 or P6. So I think George Russell may get P6, Hamilton may get P7, because Norris actually had a chance of acing and maybe even moving on to the front row in Imola last season, but unfortunately due to track limits violation, he had to go down all the way down to 7. So he may improve with that with the new McLaren this time, with a amazing double points finish with him and Ricciardo in Australia. He may perform quite well and finish in a P5, a magnificent P5 for Lando Norris. The top 4. Charles Leclerc on pole position for the qualifying day alone, because we do have a sprint race. So Leclerc on top ahead of Max Verstappen on the front row. Sergio Perez at P3 ahead of Carlos Sainz, because Sainz had been kicked out of qualifying last season. So he may get a chance of maybe finishing P3 as his highest. So I think he will be P4. Maybe Sergio Perez will be P3 because he started on the front row. Verstappen will be on the front row though this qualifying part of Imola this season in my predictions. Leclerc on top. Now moving to the sprint race, we do have this list. So the winner will get 3 points, runner-up 2 points, podium finisher 1 point. I think that's the same strategy being used this time. So in P3 we have Carlos Sainz for Ferrari, runner-up being Max Verstappen, and no change, Charles Leclerc starting on pole position for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. I couldn't find anything else a bit different. I mean, there could be a chance Verstappen could win the sprint race, and then later on Leclerc getting a very good start to the season, Ferrari indeed being constructors in my prediction. So, but there are chances of Max Verstappen to win the sprint race, because if he does, then Charles Leclerc may get the restart perfect during the race day and take the lead in the first or maybe second lap, continue his battle along with Max Verstappen, maybe even till the very end, and Leclerc may win the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. So it depends on which position he takes. It may be first or second, that will be his choice. Verstappen may also be first or second being his choice. But in my predictions, I think Leclerc and Verstappen will be the order. Verstappen though does have a good chance. And going to the race day, we need to know the race result indeed. So we'll be looking at P3, which is Carlos Sainz. P2 being a shocking Sergio Perez in P2. Charles Leclerc winning the Grand Prix. Ferrari being constructors indeed. Carlos Sainz taking the fastest lap. And of course, Charles Leclerc being driver of the day. I think in Imola there is a chance of Carlos Sainz in P3. Sergio Perez in P2. A replacement, maybe Max Verstappen, or maybe even Carlos Sainz, a bit of a replacement. But in my predictions, I think Sergio Perez has a chance of finishing in P2. Carlos Sainz P3. Charles Leclerc winning the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Ferrari being the constructors. Fastest lap going to Carlos Sainz. I took DNFs as 4 as well, because it's in Imola, and in order to be a race really dramatic, or in a place like Imola, it is for sure that there may be engine issue or many spins as well that could lead to retirements. So I think the maximum will be 4 DNFs. Drive of the day going to Charles Leclerc. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with all the F1 fans and all the F1 friends whom you know. Please ask them to subscribe as well. Please hit the subscribe button. But until then, next time.